Call everyone? Yeah? 2, 6, 8, 9. Yeah, 9. Okay, we got it. Okay, so today we're going to start the topic of Shehiya. I want this word Shehiya. Shehiya means maintain. It's an Aramaic word. It means to maintain. Shehiya. It's not Russian Kurdish. It's not the language of the Torah. It means maintain. Maintaining means it's referring to maintaining food on the fire. So the topic is going to be maintaining food on the fire before Shabbos. Are you allowed to leave food on the fire before Shabbos? That's going to be the discussion. Okay. So you cook the food before Shabbos and you want to leave it on the fire. Is there a problem leaving food on the fire? You're going to say no. What's the problem? It's cooked. Leave it on the fire. Fine, 100%. How much does it have to be cooked before Shabbos to say that you're allowed to put it on the fire? How much? So the pan, okay, very good. We're going to get to that point.
Because it's 2/3 if you're going to eat it on Friday night.
Very good. Okay, 1/3. Okay, so we're going to get to that. You see, you're familiar with it. Sarah business.
Yeah.
So, in order to be permitted to leave food on the fire before Shabbos, it has to be at least halfway cooked before Shabbos. There's an opinion that says 1/3. You're referring to the other
No, I
opinion.
said 2/3.
Right, so we don't have this. It's either half cooked or 1/3 cooked. Right. So the law is that if you want to leave food on the fire before Shabbos, the food must be halfway cooked before Shabbos. This is before we get to the blech. You want to leave food on the fire before Shabbos, the food must be half cooked. There's an opinion that says 1/3 cooked. So that's what it is. She is maintaining food on the fire, Shehiya, or you could write maintaining. And it has to be cooked at least. You want to leave the food on the fire before Shabbos. It has to be cooked. This is the term in Allah. It's called Michael ben Dirusay. We spoke about this, didn't we? We spoke about Michael ben Dirusay. Michael, the food of thieves. There's a name of thieves called Dirusay. These thieves were very busy people. They didn't have time to cook the food all the way. They used to cook it halfway. Some say cooked it 1/3 of the way, and that's how they ate it. So Allah says that Allah uses this their level of cooking to determine that you're allowed to leave it on the fire before Shabbos. So if the food is cooked, Michael went to say before Shabbos, you can leave it on the fire. If not, you can't leave it on the fire. Now let me ask you a question. Shouldn't it be cooked completely before Shabbos? You know, the cooking Shabbos. How are you allowed? Why are we saying if it's half cooked, 1/3 cooked, you can leave it on the fire? 1 second. Aren't you cooking on Shabbos? How is that permitted? Are you allowed to cook on Shabbos? No, obviously not. Now, if I put food that's cooked halfway on the fire and it's going to cook during Shabbos, am I transgressing Shabbos?
No, because you started before.
Because you put it on the fire before Shabbos, like you put on the light switch before Shabbos. So there's no prohibition, there's no transgression. I'm telling you, even though there's no transgression, means according to the Torah, you could take a pot of food and put it on the fire right before Shabbos, and it'll cook during Shabbos. By the Torah, there's no transgression because you put the food on the fire before Shabbos. Our Chacham, our sages come and tell us it has to be Michael ben Dirusay. It must be at least half cooked, or something say 1/3 cooked. We go by half cooked before Shabbos to allow you to leave it on the fire for Shabbos. So if you would take the food and put it on the fire like 10 minutes before you bench licht, and then you say, oh my gosh, it just barely started to cook. maybe cooked, maybe just an eighth or a tenth is cooked. You wouldn't be allowed to leave it on the fire. You would have to take the food off the fire. It's not going to be there. Why? Why does it have to be half cooked? Not because you're cooking, because you're not cooking on Shabbos, you put the food on the fire before Shabbos. Anyone remembers from other classes here, what's the reason why it has to be half cooked before Shabbos? What's the reason?
Like edible and milk, you could potentially
What?
eat it.
Very good. You have to be able to potentially eat it. And also, if it's half cooked, by the time you sit down for the meal, it'll be completely cooked. But why? You don't remember the reason why you can't leave food on the fire before Shabbos unless it's at least Michael and the Messiah, which means half cooked.
You might just start.
Very good. Very good. Something called Shema Yechata. Gezeda. Gezeda, it's a decree. Shema, perhaps Yechata, is also, it actually comes from the Lashon Kodesh, Machtoisov, in the king, the vessels in the Mishkan, there was a shovel for the coals on the Mizbech, on the altar, called the Machta. Machta will be the noun, the shovel. Yechata is the verb, Yechata. Shema, perhaps. Shema Yechata, perhaps you'll stir the coals. Back in those days, the fire, the coal, we're concerned that you might stir the coals on Shabbos because the food is not cooked yet, and you want it to be ready for tonight. And you're looking and the fire is not burning so good. It's like the fires these days. You put on the fire and it burns for the next 3 days. Then we have to put fuel, add wood and coals, and the fire is not going to be burning good. Food is not going to be ready tonight. So you'll start stirring the coals. So they said, we want to make sure before Shabbos, the food is at least half cooked. If it's half cooked before Shabbos, then we know by the time you're sitting down for the meal, it'll be completely cooked, and we don't have to worry that you're going to stir the coals. Now, we wrote it half cooked, but a third cooked is b'di'evet. So, b'di'evet, let me do this. Okay, so lichatchila, it's a half cooked. This is lichatchila. Just put it like this. The di'evet, a third cooked. Means, let's say you already left it on the stove before Shabbos, and it was not a half cooked, but it was a third cooked. So b'di'evet, the food will be fine. We'll be allowed to eat it. Look at this, b'di'evet, a third cooked. But if it was less than a third cooked before Shabbos, let's say you put on the fire before Shabbos and it was less than a third cooked, you're not allowed to eat the food at Shabbos. And even after Shabbos, you have to wait the time, huh?
You have to wait for it to.
The time that it would take to cook. Very good. Now, yeah, is clear? Now, there is a situation where you're allowed to leave it on the fire before Shabbos, even though it's not a third cooked. And that is if you're putting meat. If you're putting meat, you're putting raw meat. You're putting raw meat. Raw meat. Then it's okay. Raw meat is okay to put before Shabbos. It has to be completely raw. If it's completely raw and it's meat, even chicken, before Shabbos, then it's okay. Now here it sounds quite ironic. Now I'm saying it's totally raw, then it's okay to leave it on the fire before Shabbos. What is the reason? Because being that it's meat and chicken take a long time to cook back in those days. So if you're putting it on raw right before Shabbos, it's anyways not going to be ready until the time of the meal. back in those days with their type of, the fires that they had back then, it would not be ready until the time of the meal anyways. So now, you're not concerned Shemi Echati might stir the coals, because anyways won't be ready until tonight, because if you put it on raw right before Shabbos, it anyways won't be ready for tonight. So we're not concerned that Shemi Echati might stir the coals. So if you're putting it raw right before Shabbos, now it's okay. But you have to make sure it's right before Shabbos, because if you don't do it right before Shabbos, you do 10 minutes before and it starts to cook. So basically, right before you bench licht, if you put a pan on the fire, small fire, and it's totally raw, even if it's not totally raw, even if it's cooked or half cooked, but if you take one raw piece of meat and you put it into the pot of fire, into the pot, then that's okay. Now, because you put one raw piece of meat, that means we're not concerned you're going to stir the coals, because it anyways won't be ready for tonight. Now, what many people do is they have a crock pot, because practically to put raw meat on the fire right before Shabbos, you're not sure what the fire is going to do to it. The fire goes a little higher, a little lower, and if it doesn't cook well, if it cooks too strong, it's going to get burnt. If the fire is too small, it won't cook properly. It could work, but it's a little more. You really have to know what you're doing with the fire. So a lot of people, they use a crock pot. Crock pot, it's regulated the heat. You put it on a low temperature. So they will put a raw pot into the crock pot right before Shabbos. And you're allowed to do it, because if you put it on right before Shabbos, then it's fine. Any questions? The same thing is when it comes to hot water. If you want to put on, a lot of people don't know about this. Before Shabbos, the last minute, you shut off all the lights, put on the blech. Oh, we need hot water. Okay, fill up the hot water, plug it in right before Shabbos, and we're good, right? Right or wrong?
Yes, the same.
Now you're learning that you cannot do it right before Shabbos. The food has to be halfway cooked. Actually, many opinions say with water it should be completely cooked, because no one drinks half-cooked water. So the water should actually be cooked before Shabbos. You can't go plugging in, filling up an urn with water, and plugging it in right before Shabbos. You have to put it on, plug it in a half an hour, 45 minutes before Shabbos. Otherwise, you have a problem. There are those that think that it's not a problem, because they say there's no concern of Shemi Echata with the urn, because there's nothing to make it higher and lower. But according to most opinions, being a Chum established it this way, it has to be half cooked before Shabbos. The water should be half cooked, and like I said, it should really be completely cooked, according to many opinions, because people don't drink half cooked water.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
if non-Jew put the, like, let's say, cold water before Shabbos, like clearly before Shabbos, is it okay? And then
If the non-Jew plugs in the urn before Shabbos.
yeah, like before Shabbos, and like no cold water.
That's a good question. That's a good question. We're going to mark it down so we can look into it.
Rabbi, I know that we know for them to add water. Because I asked him this question a few weeks ago.
Okay, say exactly what you asked, because every question is different.
So we didn't ask about plugging it in, but we asked about adding water to the hot water and
On Shabbos, okay, but her question is about telling a non-Jew to, if the non-Jew put in the water before Shabbos, is that correct?
Yeah,
He filled it up right before Shabbos, when you're not allowed to, but the non-Jew did it.
but you're gonna
Is
use it.
that, huh?
But you're gonna use it.
are you allowed to use it? Because you're not allowed to do it. Now, if the non-Jew did it, is that allowed? That's a very interesting question. That could be okay. I have to look into it. See, generally, if a non-Jew does something on Shabbos, it's a problem. He did it before Shabbos, when you're not allowed to do it. That could be okay. Not sure. No. Now, your question was, you were talking about putting water on Shabbos. Right, that's not allowed. Right. Yeah, is it clear? Okay. So why do we have a blech? Oh, no one asked, what's this idea of Shehiya these days? There's no coals. Well, obviously, these days, that's translated into turning on this knob, that you're gonna make the fire higher with the knob. Now, what about the blech? Does anyone have any idea why we have a blech?
It's more symbolic.
Hmm?
It's more symbolic to give us a sign of like, oh, it's Shabbos, don't turn the flames.
Okay, good, very good. But the question is, we just said, if you're allowed to put food on the fire right before Shabbos, right before Shabbos, if it's halfway cooked. And we're not concerned of Shehiya if it's half cooked, we're not concerned to stir the coals, and you want to put the food in. Now, all of a sudden we say, oh, you need a blech also. What's the blech all about? It's correct what you're saying. I'm going to elaborate on it, but what I want to understand, what's the blech all about? Where's the blech come in here? Yeah, everyone gets the question? The reason why we have the blech is because of what's called chazara. Ever heard the word chazara? What does chazara mean? Anyone? You can try to guess. You're not going to get points off. Chazara, what does chazara mean?
It's a review.
Well, I'm going to hear that, and that's correct. Chazara means review. But chazara can also mean return. So here referring to returning the pot to the blech. The purpose of the blech is, if you want to be able to return the pot onto the fire, you want to be able to take it off and put it back on, you need to have a blech. Why? Why do we need a blech? Because of, here we go, again, Shema Yechatem. You see this? Is this word familiar to you? Shema Yechatem? No? You following this? So why do we need a blech? To be able to put back the pot to the fire, you need a blech. What's the purpose of the blech? Shema Yechatem. What's Shema Yechatem mean? Because you might stir the coals. If there's no blech, and you want to put it back, you might end up making the fire higher. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It does. Let's think about it. Before Shabbos, you were allowed to keep it on the fire without a blech. There was no concern you might stir the coals. It was half cooked. Now it's completely cooked. I want to be able to put it back. Oh, you need a blech. You know why you need a blech? Because you might stir the coals.
You might turn it on.
You might make it higher. Shem Yechatem means you might stir the coal, which these days means you might turn on the knob, make the fire a little higher. Before Shabbos, you're allowed to leave it on the fire, half cooked. There's no concern Shem Yechatem because it's half cooked. It's going to cook. By the time it's time to eat, it'll cook already. No problem. Now you want to took the pot off the fire. You want to be able to put it back. You can't put it back unless there's a blech. Why? Because Shema Yechatem, you might stir the coals. You're concerned you might make the fire. You need something to remind you not to make the fire higher. Why? Before Shabbos, it was okay to leave the food on the fire. It was not concerned you might stir the coals because it's half cooked. Now it's completely cooked. Because if it's not completely cooked, you definitely can't put it back. You definitely can't put back something that's not completely cooked. Why? Why?
Because of it is.
Well, correct. Why can't you put something back that's not completely cooked? Why?
So you're cooking
Because you're cooking, so it has to be completely cooked. But you can't put it back unless there's a blech. Why? Because you might make the fire higher. Why? What are we concerned about? Before Shabbos, it was okay to leave it, and it wasn't even completely cooked. It was only half cooked, and we weren't concerned. Now on Shabbos, we're concerned. What happened? Huh? Okay, so what you're saying a correct idea, but it's not the answer to this question, but it's correct what you're saying. We're going to talk about that later. That's another reason why I need the blech. There's two reasons. That's something else. No, that's for the other conditions that we need. But for the blech, this is the reason. You have an explanation?
It's like before Shabbos, you're very well aware that Shabbos is coming and like that you're doing it for Shabbos, and then on Shabbos, if you're messing with the stove, you might think it's a weekday.
Why? It's Shabbos. On the contrary, it's Shabbos. Okay, good try. The explanation is because when you take the food off the fire, it's very likely that the food cooled off. Now you're putting it back. When it's before Shabbos, and the food is, you have time, so you're gonna eat, it's gonna cook, we're not concerned. When you take something off the fire, it cools off. When it cools off and you're putting it back, there's much more of a concern. You're going to stir the coals because the food was off the fire for a while. And now you're putting it back, so the concern is much stronger that you might stir the coals. That's the reason.
I have a question. But can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
You can leave the children or whatever in the crock pot, even though it's not really cooked, like during Shabbos.
Right, so we said before Shabbos, you could put the raw food, meat or chicken, into a crock pot. Right before Shabbos, you turn it on, and there's no problem because it's totally raw. I'm not concerned because being that it's raw, so you're not probably ready for tonight anyways. I'm not concerned. They might stir the coals. They're not.
But
The
if you
cream.
like, if you change the leakage from solid, that doesn't matter.
You put some salt, what do you mean?
And because when you put it like it's more solid, it's more liquid, the shouldn't, and then
That's what you're saying. Putting it right before Shabbos, we cook during Shabbos.
it's like if you put like in the beginning, it's like more the shouldn't, it's more liquid. But
So, yeah,
but like during the day, it will be like more solid, so it's not totally liquid as you put it
you're
before.
saying you're cooking?
I'm asking.
No, I'm asking. But you put it on before Shabbos. There's no halacha, there's no work involved. You have to get it clear. When you put something on the fire before Shabbos, you're not transgressing by the Torah. Our sages forbade certain acts. So if it's raw meat before Shabbos, we're not concerned about anything. Yeah, okay, now the second reason, which some of you mentioned already, Nira Kimavasha, right? Some of you mentioned. Now it looks like you're cooking. Nira Kimavasha, Nira means it appears. Kimavasha, ki, that's the prefix, Kimavasha, like you're cooking. That is the reason for not for the blech. That's not the reason for the blech. Shem Yechata is the reason for the blech. That's why you need a blech. Nira Kimavasha is for all the other conditions you may be familiar with when you take the pot off the fire. Oh, when you finish writing. Nira Kimavasha, it's a classical word in halacha. It appears like you're cooking. This is not for the blech. I put a line here, nothing to do with the blech. This is for the conditions that we're going to discuss, which you're familiar with some of them. And that is when you take the pot off the fire, you want to be able to put it back. You have to hold on to the pot, right? I'm sure you're familiar with that. Why? The pot, hold it, and back. Why? What's it all about? Just to have a little exercise on Shabbos. What's the point? Because Nira Kimavasha looks like you're cooking. It looks like you're cooking. It looks like you're cooking. Yeah. You take a pot, you're putting it on the fire, it looks like cooking. Chacham don't want us to do something that gives a certain impression. Because it has that impression, it could lead to misconceptions. Oh, it's okay to cook it. You can't put stuff on the fire on Shabbos. Oh, we do it all the time. We put food. What do you mean not put it? You get, can lead to the wrong impression. So they said, what you're going to do is you take a pot off the fire, you make sure you're still holding on to it. And you shouldn't put it down also. The we don't try to put it down on the table, we try to hold it up. Talk more about that. So now, how does this help? You're still putting it back. But because you're still holding on to it, so it's very clear that it's not a new act. You're not putting it on again. You're not putting it on, it's not a new time, it's not a new placement. It's a continuation. You're just returning something that was already on the fire and holding on, you're putting it back so it doesn't look like cooking. That's what it's all about. So what are the conditions? You have to have your hand on it. What else? Intent to put it back. Okay, very good. So let's write down here. We can erase this, right? We're gonna write down here. What are the conditions you need to be able to put back the food to the blech? Condition number one is what? Right, okay, so fine. Very good, we need a blech. Actually, another condition has to be cooked. So if you want to talk about conditions, when you count conditions, there's different ways that you can count it. People say there's 5 things, say 6. I mean, one of the conditions is it has to be completely cooked. It's not really a condition in terms of blech, it's a condition, it's cooking. But you have to make sure it's cooked. It has to be completely cooked. Okay, now you have to have a blech. What do you do about a crock pot? A crock pot doesn't have a blech. So you want to put back food to the crock pot. You're not allowed. You need a blech. How do you get a blech into a crock pot? Anybody? Tinfoil. You cut a piece of tinfoil before Shabbos, because you can't cut tinfoil on Shabbos. You have to put it in. By the way, okay, we'll get that later. I want to discuss once if you got to put a blech before Shabbos. Remind me, we'll talk about it soon. A blech. What else? You have to have. Huh? Good. So you really learned it well. It's actually warm. It doesn't have to be hot, but that's what you meant. It's fine. It has to still have warmth. Hypothetically speaking, I mean, usually if you have your hand in it, how long is it off? It's usually still warm, but theoretically speaking, it could have let it out of your hand. And there are other opinions that say you don't need other conditions, whatever. We're not getting into that now. But these are primary conditions. Now, we're going in order over here. After the blech, it has to be warm. Now, these conditions are a must. It must be completely cooked, it must be left, it must be warm, must. Now we come to conditions that go into the category. The next conditions we're going to write over here are machlekes. Some opinions say you don't need these conditions. But the halach is that you do need the conditions. So practically we do need the conditions. But I'm putting a line, just you should have the awareness that there are opinions that say you don't need those conditions. Then we will occasionally, in a time of need, and not something you can necessarily decide on your own. Sometimes you have to speak to it up if you're not sure, but we're going to get to that. That in certain situations, you could have leeway with the other conditions. So, what's the other conditions? You have to have your hand on it. It has to be, try English or Hebrew. Okay, yeah, we'll do English now. Hand. Hand means your hand is on it. Your hand is on it. Okay,
In the
you're
pot,
holding onto the pot. Okay, well, just if you, it doesn't say biyodin, because we got clear, biyodin means in your hand, so it has the whole thing, so hand is just, biyodin, it's in your hand. Daitoi, hachazira. What this means? Daitoi, it's your intention, das, your intention of hachazira to return it. Chazar, hachazira, daita hachazira. Let's talk about biyodin. What does it mean biyodin in your hands? It's the pot, okay? Pot is on the fire. Yeah, you see my pot here? It's on the fire. I pick it up. I want to serve chomp, right? I have to keep it in my hands. Put it down on the table and I hold on to it. Is that good enough? Or do I have to hold it like this? It's a heavy pot. This is a machlokes. It's not clear. What does it mean in my hand? I have to hold it up. Then you need two people to scoop out the chunk. I have to hold this heavy pot in the air. As long as I can scoop the chunk, it's not so easy. Some opinions say yes, you should hold it in your hand. Some say it's good enough. Or like this, they say it's good enough. So halachically, it's acceptable. If someone puts it down on the table, you're safe. You can still put it back, but it's preferable if you can actually hold it up in the air. But it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. So there is another piece of advice that what you do is, which is close, which is better than putting it down on the table, though you're not holding it up, but it's much better than putting it on the table and just putting your hand on it. And that is, you take the pot to the edge of the table like this, and you're holding it. Now, listen carefully. What's the chachma behind this? If you're holding it like this, what is, it's on the table. You see that? They don't see, if you don't see what I'm doing, stand up. Wait till you understand what I'm doing. It's on the table, and my hand is on it. Now, what they're saying is, a better way is like this. Why is this better? Anyone? Because if I let go, it's going to fall. So now I'm actually holding it. My hand is doing something. When it's over here, I'm holding it. The table's holding it. My hand is on it. We said it's still good, it's fine, it works, but when you go like this, and your hand is now holding it from falling off the table, now you're actually holding it. Without your hand, it would fall off. So this is a better way to do. You have to make sure you don't let go. Okay, please, don't want to get hurt. Be safe. Okay, daite lachazira. When you take it off the fire, you have to have das. You have to have intention to return it. If you take it off the fire, if you take it off and you never put it back, because you take off the chunk, you're serving chunk now. You're serving chunk 3 times. Everyone comes in time to the meal. And then while you have your hand, then while you're holding on to it, you decide, oh, let me put it back. Someone's coming much later. Want to have hot chunks. When you took it off, it was not your intention to put it back. Now you don't have this condition. According to one opinion, I can't put it back. But lechatchila, we do keep all the conditions. Another condition is, see if you know the other one. It seems like you remember everything. Yeah, you remember another one? If you remember.
The black holy God remains warm to be counted with the period when you return.
There's another one. According to the you don't see another one? Because the Alter gives another one.
I don't know, I studied it like.
Okay. Okay, so the other one has to be the same pot. Or actually wasn't transferred. How would I write that in short? Wasn't transferred. That's not same pot is not accurate. Wasn't transferred. Okay, let's see. Shred. It's one R, right? Transferred. Wasn't transferred. What does this mean? The food, it's the same pot that it was on the fire, it was not transferred. What does it mean? Let's say I take the pot off the fire. Yeah, take the pot off the fire, I'm holding it in the air. Good, I have das, I have intention, I'm holding on to it. And then someone else brings another pot. I said, I want to put it into another pot. Pour it into another pot. Even if I take afterwards the pot and pour it back into the original pot, whichever pot it is. Once I transfer it to another pot, why would I transfer to another pot? It doesn't matter why, but you could maybe you want to put it into a smaller pot, whatever. Now you have das, you have hands, but you want to put it back not in the same pot. Pour it into another pot, put that pot onto the blech. According to Altaneba, no good. That's one of the conditions that if you transfer it to another pot, you cannot put it back onto the fire. Why? Because remember, this is all because of what reason? Why do you need all these conditions? All these conditions are Mira Kavashna. Mira Kavashna. The blech is Shem Mechatem. But all this is Mira Kavashna. The reason why it has to be warm, because otherwise it looks like cooking. If it's became cold, let's say dry food, so you're not really cooking it, but it looks like cooking. All these conditions is because it looks like cooking. Reason why it doesn't look like cooking is because it's still in the same pot. That's why you need this condition. Once it's in a different pot, you're not returning the same pot, you're returning a different pot. So now it looks like a new act. You're putting it on, it looks like you're putting it on for the first time. And that pot is actually the first time. The food is the same. Because it's not the same pot, but now even if it is the same pot, because you transferred it back to the original pot, it's still a problem. Because once the food is transferred to another pot and put back, it becomes like a new act. But now we say, it looks like cooking. Is that getting it? Any questions?
But can you explain again?
What?
The last one that is hard. It's like,
Was it transferred?
yeah, it's like to put it again the other way. But like I didn't get it.
You didn't get it. Okay, does anyone get it? Does anyone want to explain this one? Who wants to explain the last one? Yeah, you want to explain the last condition that it wasn't transferred?
Because then it looks like you're cooking
Then just explain the whole, want to explain the whole thing? No, shall I explain? Okay, I'll explain. You want to know the reason or just explain the whole thing? The whole idea.
Okay.
I take the pot off the what? Oh, this is stoked up and burn. I pick up the pot, take it off, put up the lid, and then someone else brings another pot. And I pour it into the other pot, pour it into here. Then I take this. I'm not allowed to do this.
But the first one you can.
Yeah, whatever's left.
Okay.
Yeah, I know the front. Yeah, yeah.
I heard.
Why not? But the food that was transferred, can't go back onto the fire in the other pot. Even if you put it back to the original pot, because it was transferred, it becomes like a new act. Does not look like a continuation of before. And you have this problem with Nina Kavavash when it looks like you're cooking.
Okay.
Is this clear?
Yes.
Another important thing about the blech is, if you notice, the blech also covers the knobs. Now you need to understand that the main part of the blech is not covering the knobs. The main part of the blech is covering the fire, not the knobs. We cover the knobs too. That's the right thing to do, to cover the knobs, because you want to make sure that's to remind you not to. The purpose of the blech is you shouldn't make the fire higher. But that's not the main part. Why? Because the way the Chum established the idea of a blech, which originated from covering the fire, it originates from the concept of putting ash on the fire to diminish the fire. That's where it comes from. So the main act of the Chacham was to do something to this fire, whether it's back in those days, they said put ash on the fire. Now we cover the fire to remind you not to make the fire higher. Covering the knobs is in addition. That's something that is brought that we should do. That's the proper thing to do because the concern is it might make the fire higher. But the knobs is not the most important thing. In other words, it's not like, oh, the main thing is to cover the knobs. No, the main thing is to cover the fire. We cover the knobs too. So let's say in a situation where they did not cover the knobs, they just cover the fire, you have to know that it's kosher. The blech is fine because they cover the fire. Should you cover the knobs? Yes, you should cover the knobs. That's the right thing to do. But if you didn't, it's still fine because Me'acham established this takana was by covering the fire. Okay, see you next week. Shabbos, everyone.
Thank you.